Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to walk you through a government policy in Canada as it relates to liquefied natural gas. Now, what I'm going to talk about is what is liquefied natural gas. I'll talk about the market size worldwide. I'll talk about government policies that likely will drive this particular expansion of the energy sector in liquefied natural gas for exports. What is liquefied natural gas? Basically, gas comes in a gaseous state for natural gas. What this does through a power plant, it turns it to a liquid, and that liquid then can be transported through containers, ships like tankers, to market. And that's really what it's basically doing in a nutshell. What's going to drive this process? Well, there's numerous factors, but right now some of the factors are doing just like oil. Natural gas prices are at some of the lowest levels we've seen since 2008. So we've gone from $8.86 down to $2.63 on average for 2015. It's an area that we need to kind of watch because that's actually going to drive how capital investments done by energy companies in turn to export. However, like everything else, commodity prices will rebound. So any sort of investments will typically have to be done to think out the 10 to 20 year limit anyways. Natural gas consumption, this is what you're going to see in drive. The top three countries are United States, Russia, and China. But what I want to pull away from there is the growth market areas. When you start looking at Southeast Asia, you're looking into Africa, every other countries that are going to require power generation that cannot be just supported by renewable projects like wind or solar. They just don't provide the base load to do the benefit from industry to residential. So that's an area that we need to kind of watch. The other thing that's going to drive it is that typically, even with clean energy projects like wind and solar, the backup systems are typically natural gas. This just shows you consumption since 2010. We're almost going to double by 2040. So we're going to need the capacity to have that natural gas and get it to market. Canada's a good country that's in position well to take a benefit of that uptick in natural gas consumption. This kind of shows you where by country where the imports of liquefied natural gas are coming from. Now the key area here I want you to focus on is the Pacific Basin, and you're starting to look at countries like India. You're getting into Southeast Asia like Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia that are building more and more natural gas power plants that require LNG. Canada has struck some deals with Petrobras and some other global companies to kind of look at taking Canadian natural gas and exporting it into Southeast Asia market. However, we're going to run into some issues, and I'll get into those later on, that are going to drive the capacity, the ability to expand exports of energy. Now, like anything else that you're going to talk about, the ecologists, the environmentalists, the different people are going to talk about the pro-green agenda, whether it's Agenda 21. They're going to talk about the GHG blueprint, or footprint I should say. Basically, if you look at this particular chart here, you're going to see basically that coal, which is still the biggest issue of power generation in countries like the US and China and India, you're going to see them look more and more for alternative fuels, whether that's clean energy from wind or solar. You're also going to look at natural gas. And natural gas still creates GHG, so even when you talk about carbon taxation or price on carbon, natural gas plants will actually have a carbon tax on it. If any countries start going that direction in climate control or climate change, they will actually charge it for natural gas because it does create GHG. Now, let's talk about government policy. Government policy is what's going to drive some of the things, from the regulatory side on pipelines to the tax incentives or CCA codes, which is basically a deduction of equipment for that investment. We're going to drive it. Stephen Harper, late in his term, came up with new CCA tax codes to help benefit the liquefied natural gas, which is heavily being invested by BC. BC staked a lot of their claim or future Christy Clark has on LNG plants, and it's an area that you need to watch in terms of the new government in Canada being under Justin Trudeau, what their approach will be in terms of supporting energy policies. Key provinces now, BC is really big into exporting it. They have natural gas reserves too, so they're looking at building plants in Prince Rupert out towards Kitimat. That's okay to build those plants, but there seems to be no clear understanding yet of how we would ship those products to market, and also about how we're going to reduce the tax, the assessment process to get pipelines built. Issues: natural gas and pricing, as you've seen earlier on in this presentation, the price is low. So you're seeing a less and less investment in capital in terms of expanding energy projects. So you're seeing that restriction there. Port expansion. You're seeing more and more approval to build more liquefied natural gas plants in areas like Sydney, Prince Rupert, maybe even into Nova Scotia somewhere to take advantage of. There are some plants already built. New Brunswick took the lead hand in St. John and built an LNG plant there. So there's capacity to do that. But the problem is provincial governments have to stand up and decide with the federal government with a clear energy policy, and that hasn't been clearly defined yet. And it's something that you need to watch as you're doing that. And that's why you see here with the regulatory approval is we can build LNG plants, but we need to have access to product, and that means pipelines have to be built or expanded to allow that product to get to LNG plants before it gets to exports. Now, you can dice and slice all you want, but the reality is exports drive the economy. Energy is a critical driver of the economy. It's something that any government coming into power needs to realize that is part of their overall strategy as they're looking at diversifying their economy, but we also need to be able to support exports, and energy is one of those critical products that drive exports. Thank you.